Crackadona, what is the big picture?
So, for the past 80 years, this has been going on, and up until just 2017, it was not taken seriously. Now we're having congressional hearings.
Check this retard's fucking hard drive!
They can do with their minds. They can make you think. They can plant false memories. They can paralyze you.
It's rotating.
They know who to talk to and who not to talk to, which is not true of people who have delusions, or have come up with something which is a reflection of a mental illness. And the only thing that I know that behaves like that is real experience, where something has actually happened to these people. Then the question is, what has happened?
And he said he just wants to put it in my table. It's just a simple test. I don't know, it will hurt. Don't do it. Don't do it. And even though it won't hurt. And he sticks a needle into my face.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. What is the big picture?
Well, the big picture is it's progress. How's everybody doing tonight? Good to see ya. We're chilling. We got a good guest tonight. We got Ashton Forbes is here from the incredible MH370 Malaysian Airlines disappearance videos. Have you all seen it? I've seen it. I've watched it 1,000 times on repeat. Let's just bring Ashton in. Ashton, are you good? Good? Ashton, welcome, man.
Hey, Crackadona. Nice to see you in person.
Yeah, good to see you.
We've been hanging out on the streams last few nights, I think, right?
Yeah, man. The past 2 weeks since I messaged you, things have gotten exponentially more crazy just in 2 weeks. We got Kim.com coming with the bounty, the 145,000 it's up to now. So can you explain what the prerequisites are to claim the bag?
Yeah. So let's just break it down. So Kim.com came up huge. Couldn't be more grateful to Kim.com. I had a personal chat with him to go over the evidence with him because he's a real logical guy, and he wanted to know more about the case and stuff like that. And then we did this huge stream where we had 3,000 people watching or listening on Spaces on Twitter. I had another 1,500 in my own YouTube that I was simultaneously streaming at the same time. We had people like Greg Gutfield in there. We had Scott Adams in there listening. We had Jacob Chansley in there, and he actually spoke about UFOlogy, and it's like,
oh yeah, he's the shaman. January 6th shaman guy. He was spitting facts. He was going deep into the UFO
tachyon engines. Yeah, I'm like, wow, okay, this is he knows more than me.
I listened to the whole thing. I'm like, all right, yeah, it sounds legit. Go ahead.
Yeah, so then after that, I didn't expect this. Kim.com did not tell me he was doing this. And then he just comes up and says, he makes a post about going to be $100,000 US for anybody who
That's crazy.
in his words, he says that, provide the source material of the footage without the orbs, right? Showing that there would be, some source material added in there. Now, I chatted with him and told him that how I would represent this, just to be more clear, is that they have to find the hoaxer and produce the source files. Because if somebody faked this footage, it's not like they just got it right on the final take, right? Like the thing that they put out at the end is not going to be the only thing that they've produced. They're going to have like versions leading up to that where they're like adding stuff to it, right? And trying to make it better and better and better. Like if you were to work on a project, it's not like, oh, the final product's the only file you have, right? You're going to have a bunch of files for all the material you used.
Composited together. And
composite it all together, right? Whatever you did there with that. So that's what we are requiring. And I told him about that, and he gave me the thumbs up in our DMs about it. And then we had Investigate Earth podcast, which I've done 3 parts with them. And they also did another just impromptu podcast about the David Grush situation, where they actually talked about MH370 again. So there's technically been 4 parts about the MH370 case. And I have to throw a big shout out to Chad and Sherry of the Investigate Earth podcast. Check that one out. It's one of the top podcasts on Spotify, whatever. They're awesome people. I've talked to them personally several times, and they threw in 20,000 on it.
Okay, I was wondering who threw in the extra. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And then I had a wealthy follower reach out to me and talk to me personally, gave me their number because I saw this person wanted to pledge 25,000. So I'm like, hey, are you serious? And they're like, yeah. So I talked to them personally, find out that there's somebody who's actually run for higher office.
Right. You had mentioned that in your stream the other day.
So
you
we're talking about, go ahead.
You can't say specifically how high of office, or we're not talking like postal postmaster or anything, right?
But generally we're talking about higher office. We're talking about like Senate or Congress, right?
Okay.
So we're talking about not like your state senate or anything like that. We're talking like national run things. So this is somebody who's wealthy, who is a strong supporter of the investigation, and is willing to put up another 25,000. I don't want to dox them or anything like that, so I'm not going to. But I have talked to them several times, and they're a big supporter. They want to support more than that too.
Can I take a guess? You don't have to tell me if I'm right.
Sure, you can guess. I'll give you a guess. If you get it right, then I'll smile on the camera.
Was he a professional wrestler at any point in his career? No, okay.
It's not that person.
So, it's not Jesse the Body Ventura.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Thank you for your service.
That's an interesting guess, because like that was like a long time ago that I think he was.
Well, he had the conspiracy show on Investigation Network or whatever, one of those really out there cable channels.
Okay.
But so would it be okay if we watched? I was thinking of playing your 2-minute video of the flight path explanation for anybody, because there's going to be a few people in here. Most people know the videos, but I'd like to, just for reference, play that. I got it right here. And then
So just real quick, while you're pulling that up, I started making short videos because, first of all, I wanted to be able to put stuff on Instagram, but also because it's easier for people to get, like, if you just want a very quick rundown of the whole situation, then this helps, right?
Yeah. I thought it was, it's a nice little easy digestible chunk to sort of like lay out most of the big evidence for this.
At 1719 UTC, the pilot says, "Good night,
go
Malaysian
back
Airlines,
a little bit here.
Ashton Forbes here to bring you the MH370X
there's Ashton Forbes.
flight path explainer." The plane takes off at 1642 UTC from Kuala Lumpur, headed
Feel
to
free
Beijing.
to tell me to pause it at any
At
point if you like.
1719 UTC, the pilot says, "Good night, Malaysian Airlines, flight 370. Around 1721 UTC, a lithium-ion battery fire explosion occurs and is seen by Mike McKay on an oil rig 300 miles away. He sees fire for 5 to 10 seconds. 9 witnesses along the coast hear loud noises at the same time. The plane goes dark. In the case of a fire, the first response is to pull the main buses and restore the circuits one by one until you have isolated the bad one. If they pulled the buses, the plane would go silent. The plane heads towards Penang, Langkawi International Airport. The pilot knew the train was friendlier towards Langkawi, which was also closer than Kuala Lumpur. At 1730 UTC, there's a communication with another pilot who hears the voice of one of the pilots of MH370. At the same time, 8 fishermen on a boat 10 miles off the coast see the plane flying unusually low, consistent with a depressurization emergency event, attempting to provide oxygen.
So do we think that at this point the fire had already started?
Oh yeah, so
Okay.
it starts probably 1721 UTC. That's where Mike McKay sees fire for 5 to 10 seconds. He's on his oil rig. He's going to have a cigarette. It's 1:20 in the morning at this point. And so 1:20 in the morning, he's in the back of the oil rig or some part of the oil rig. The oil rig's elevated as well. And this is about 300 miles away, which a lot of people speculate, well, can you really see that far? It was a clear night. It had just rained. I don't know. I was on another podcast who was like, couldn't understand that after it rains, like it's the clearest that you can possibly see because it like removes the haze and everything like that. And that this plane would have been very low on the horizon because it's at cruising altitude at the maximum range that you can see it. And so this is probably part of the reason why people misreported his sighting as seeing the plane crash, is that he sees this flame and he sees it go out. And he's probably thinking, oh, it made that crash into the water, but he's not realizing he's looking at a plane at cruising altitude.
Okay.
And so the fire goes out right away. So whatever fire he saw goes out. And now this plane turns back around. But at the same time, when he sees the fire, these witnesses along the coast, 9 of them on these little islands on the coast there, hear loud noises at 1720 UTC, probably 1721 in reality, but they were just, estimating the time of their hearing that. So definitely something happens there. I mean, we've got 10 witnesses right now already that hear something right at that same time.
Okay. All right.
And then, for the passengers. The Malaysian Minister of Defense claims the plane was not identified, but admits they knew it was a non-hostile civilian airliner. The plane flies over Langkawi at 1752 UTC when the co-pilot's cell phone pings a cell tower. The plane doesn't land either due to the fire or because they have communicated. So we briefly just mentioned that there was a communication with another 777 pilot at 1730 UTC, 10 minutes after the plane turns around. There's also 10 fishermen at the same time that see the plane flying low. This is going to be consistent with this plane having this depressurization event, and they're trying to give the people enough oxygen. Then the weird thing is, if you listen to the Malaysian Minister of Defense 7 weeks later, he just straight up admits that this plane is unidentified, but that they know it's a civilian airliner and they know it's not hostile, which doesn't make any sense, because if this is a hijacking scenario or a pilot suicide scenario,
he's not going to say it's not hostile. Right, yeah. Doesn't get much more hostile than a hijacking situation, yeah.
So you have to know that that they have communication. That's the only logical conclusion, is they have communication. That's why they don't send a jet up as well, because they know it's
there's civilians event, on there,
right?
Yeah.
Well, they just know it's, because you would just follow the plane too, right? If it's going off road somewhere. So they know it's an emergency event. And so at this point, I'm fairly confident that they're only not sending the jets up because they know it's an emergency event, and then probably that the U.S. government's going to take control of the situation. Now, I want to add something that is, I think, only reported first here, is I think we're going to add a new reason for why this plane doesn't land. And this is actually something that Kate T mentioned to me months ago that I just didn't connect until recently, which is that the lights on the runway would have been turned off because it's 2 a.m, 1:52 a.m., when the plane gets over to Penang. Especially in third world countries, the airport's closed. It's not like there's still probably people in there, but unless you have communication and you're like, hey, turn the lights on, or they can get a hold of them somehow, then they're not gonna be able to get those runway lights on. So if there isn't communication, then there's no way that they're gonna be able to communicate to the station down below to tell them, hey, turn the runway lights on. Otherwise it's pitch black. There's no moon out and there's no sun out. So when you try to land somewhere with no lights, it's not going to go very well, right? No matter what the situation is. So it's either that or they had communication with U.S. military or both. I'm not entirely sure. But for whatever reason, then they're going to keep going forward. They're not going to land in the water right next to the coast, which in my mind, that would be the next thing you would do. But I'm not that familiar with the topography there to know if that was something that's feasible. I think the big situation is that most of the passengers on board the plane probably can't swim. And that's because most mainland Chinese, from my experience living overseas, actually I lived in Singapore, which you can see in the bottom right of this map. And a lot of the students I went to school with were Chinese. They don't learn how to swim in mainland China because I guess there's not a lot of water in mainland China, right? Not a lot of lakes or definitely no ocean.
Interesting.
So a lot of the nationals on board, I think about 70% or so of the people on board the plane were Chinese as well. So even if some of them were coastal, et cetera, you probably have about half the plane that can't swim. Well, so even if you land in low water, these people are going to drown.
And the theory is that there's 20 engineers on board? Is that what the working theory is?
Yeah, for the motive in terms of what we're trying to do to this plane, right, with the videos, is that the best motive that we've been able to uncover is these 20 semiconductor scientists from Freescale Semiconductors. So they're engineers, technically, I guess. They were going to China to upgrade some power plants or upgrade some chip plants there. That's too many people, way too many people from one company. Even my own company has a rule about, like, I think 3 or 4 people that you can have on one plane at a time. And that's for situations just like this. I mean, you don't want to risk.
Yeah, it's like why the president and the vice president don't travel together. You know, you're going to lose, probably doubly so for a tech company when you have all your high-end, high up engineers. You're going to lose a lot of your intellectual property or whatever you want to call it in one
really
plane
weird.
crash.
I mean,
yeah.
This company gets sold the next year as well. So
isn't there ties between this company and the tech too that is speculated to be in use here?
Yeah,
I might be getting ahead of myself.
There might be also this, like, people have thrown this patent situation out there, but if it's a patent situation, it's not that, like, this is going to revert to somebody or whatever. Like, that's not how the patents work. The patents are owned by the company already. So I think there's a little bit of misinformation out there about these patents in general. But with respect to the motive in terms of how I look at it, you have this 2005 National Security Agency report that we found on commercial superconductivity development for superconductive microprocessor chips, and Freescale's all over it. They're listed there 9 times in this report that we found. I would have never thought we could find this. Freescale Semiconductor, which is the name of the company that these people work for.
Okay.
So they're listed throughout all of this. And then in addition to that, they are also, we found a news article about how they launched a major initiative dedicated to serving RF power needs for the U.S. space and defense sector. So we've got 2 major connections there that are going to be related to U.S. military and defense. And the superconductivity in general, room temperature superconductivity, is what we think is required to really enable all the technology that we see in the videos. We think that that's necessary in order to achieve the inertial mass reduction that allows the orbs to float, is how we see the non-radiating barrier around the orbs, which is the sphere that we see. And we think that's what's required as well to achieve the power levels that are required to force the plane to undergo this phase transition via the singularity that looks very similar to what we would imagine
that's
a black hole to look like.
That's when it starts to get into the quantum stuff, right?
Exactly. And so even just today on my stream, we were hanging out and we were looking at more Salvatore Pais content. And we were looking at his patent, his defense of his patent as well, which the interesting part about that was that in the patent defense, so first of all, I don't know why people think you can patent anything. That's just objectively false. Things that you have to patent have to be realistic. They have to actually be able to function. And This is the reason why he had to defend it, is that they were going to reject it because they didn't think that his patent could produce the energy levels that he was claiming. And so in his patent defense, he says, no, you can produce these energy levels, these very high levels. I think it's like 10 to the 33 power levels, which I believe breaks the Schwinger limit. And so if you imagine that you are I don't know if fundamental is the right word, but let's say you're an academic that doesn't believe that this type of technology can be possible, like potentially the patent office, this is why they would push back on it and say, no, this isn't necessarily possible. And so he had to make this PowerPoint that basically says, oh, no, this is possible, and this is how you can break that limit. And if you do, now it starts to enable this breakdown of the quantum vacuum state, or, the default state of, space-time.
That's where I get a little fuzzy when the space-time and the,
Oh, yeah.
The real
point.
Complex physics, that's where you
lose me. The plane continues
me.
to the Nicobar Islands until around 1840 UTC, when a witness, KT, sees a glowing orange plane with dark smoke coming out of it. This is consistent with the crew battling the lithium battery fire with halon fire suppression devices, releasing bromine, a halogen gas. Soon after, the videos begin. Here it is. They show.
So, the one on the left was the first one that came out, right?
No, actually the opposite.
It's this black and white one over here. And this is from the Sibers satellite. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's presumed to be from the Sibers, not a satellite, but actual. Think of Sibers as a Google Earth video playback, right?
Right. I've seen that video you've played on your website where they're constantly scanning. They're not satellites, though?
Of course, there's satellites that are scanning it, but it's not that we're looking through a specific satellite when we're looking at this. What we're looking at is a computer-generated Google Earth video playback that is pulling data from the satellites all over the planet all the time in real time. And what this allows for is real-time video playback and recorded video playback. So I could say, okay, where's Crackadona yesterday at 12 in the afternoon, right? Pull it up, just like you were to pull up Google Earth, and not just have images, but have video playback, and just press the play button, right?
Oh, shit.
And so that's why Kim.com started to put that out from the satellite thing, because, and I have to thank the debunkers here, because we would not have figured this out without them when they started saying, well, the satellite should be moving faster. And then, but the thing is, we're looking at coordinates in the bottom left. So if you're looking through a satellite video, you're not going to have when the screen shifts, the coordinates shift. And the thing I couldn't figure out early on is there's no way they're moving the satellite, right, when the coordinates shift. And the answer is they're not moving the satellite when the coordinates shift. They're just moving the Google Earth location, right? The Google Earth video playback, SIBRs.
Right, they're like pinching and just sliding the screen essentially, and then
early on people were thinking, oh, when they change that, they're moving the satellite around. But that doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't be able to operationalize the satellite that quickly and move it around like that. So the more likely answer is that it's just pulling these huge scans, and it's able to pull that data back. And they have a big computer that's just taking all that data and is processing it, and then it's relaying that to the, let's say, AWACS that are in the area, the planes. And then they've got these monitors in the planes, and they're looking at the screen on the left, the drone, and on the right, they're looking at their SIBR system, and this is how they're tracking planes, right? And this is how they're tracking boats. They might even be able to see submarines. I don't know. I mean, that's one of the capabilities they say they can do. I'm not sure if that requires something else beyond this, but you can definitely track missiles with this, planes, boats, the drones for sure. The drone is cropped out in the video on the right, just out of view. Right, like just out of view.
Oh, you can see like a nose cone in the original video, or
no, but it's cropped out in the sense we know it's there because we see it on the video on the left, right? So
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if you were to extrapolate, you would say it's just off the north side of the screen somewhere, right? So it's just out of view, which tells us a lot of information because the first video is the satellite video. So if the SIBRs video here is the first one that's released and it's got coordinates in it, which indicate the Nicobar Islands, then why do they crop out the drone, right? The simple answer is that they're trying to minimize damage to U.S. intelligence, and they probably don't even realize that they might have to release the drone footage right away, right? Maybe the first video should have been enough. Like one video of us looking at this plane should have been enough to, figure out the solution here. We've got literal satellite designation in the bottom left of our satellite video. We've got satellite coordinates. We're looking at a 777-200. It's lighter on the top and darker on the bottom, which indicates that it's Malaysian Airlines coloring, which is white on the top and gray on the bottom. And, it's got this smoke coming out of the back, which I'm still fairly confident that we're looking at smoke here. Although there is a slim possibility that it's somehow exhaust, but it's too low to be contrails. Planes that are flying this low, indicated by the cumulus clouds, they're not going to have contrails coming out of the back of them. Also, there was a witness who saw the plane in roughly the same area around the same time that also saw smoke coming out of the back of it. So pretty much has to be smoke coming out of the back. Now, this indicates a lot of stuff, right? It indicates an emergency event. The plane is flying low because it's about to land in the ocean. It's descending, as we can see very clearly in the video on the left. You can see it actually descending in that video. And if it wasn't descending, it would actually be exceeding the maximum capabilities of a 777-200. It's very impressive if these were faked, that the person that faked it just somehow magically got the perfect capabilities of a 777 wall in a circle formation, right? So there's already a lot of requirements in order to fake these. You got to know what SIBRs looks like. You got to know what the drone looks like, which as far as I know, 9 years
people
ago.
got to remember, this is from 2014. So the first video comes out 4 days after the plane goes missing. Is that correct?
The first video has a description that says received March 12th, 2014. So a lot of people try to claim, well, it came out then. Kim.com and I were talking about it. His theory is that it was put they uploaded it but didn't publish it until May 19th. And I'm guessing he's probably correct because the debunkers really want to ignore that. So usually when the debunkers are trying to ignore evidence, it's probably because it's damning to their case. Mm-hmm. But one way or another, it's either 4 days or 72 days, however you want to look at it. It's either it's either March 12th, 2014, or it's May 19th, 2014. And if you think that it's, the debunkers hate when I mention this, so I'm going to say it again. Unless you think that Regicide Anon was somehow in on the hoax, then it's going to be March 12th because they don't have any reason to lie, right? So if they say received March 12th from source protected, that tells us that this was actually from a real leaker, somebody they were trying to protect, and that they received it on March 12th, right? And if they did, that 4 days makes it impossible to fake. And so that's the rub here. And if you think that these are fake, well, now your story on how they're faked has to include Regicide Anon lying on the YouTube video or somehow faking the receive date in the YouTube video if they actually, really did receive it there and then published it later on, or if they like uploaded and published it later on.
How soon after the first video did the second video emerge? The one on the left here, right?
So from a timeline perspective, the first video, if we go by the upload date, the published date, says May 19th, 2014. And then Regicide Anon makes a Twitter account on May 22nd, 2019. And in that account, they tag MH370. They say, watch this video, before it's deleted. So they tag the video and say MH370. That's the first time because the description of the video on the right says satellite video, airliner, and UFOs. It also doesn't say anything about secret U.S. advanced technology either, which is interesting. It tells us that maybe the person that leaked this didn't even know what they were looking at. They thought that maybe they were just looking at UFOs. The second video comes out. It has, in the description, received June 5th, 2014. And then it says uploaded June 12th, 2014. The debunkers don't have any problem with this receive date because, of course, it's not as damning to their case. But that is only about 2 weeks after the first video. So 2 weeks after the first video drops, the second video gets received. A week later, 3 weeks after the first video, it's published. And the second video here is not our typical FLIR. It's not black and white. It is got a thermal layer that's been added on this Raytheon multispectral camera that we found is built-in software so that you can use the software, you can add this thermal layer. These are very advanced electro-IR cameras.
So do you not think that they were viewing the video? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you not think that they were viewing this video with this FLIR filter over it in real time?
No, I don't think so. I think they were probably looking at it in black and white with the HUD data on it, and then they came back to the recording and that they added the thermal layer over the top because they wanted us to see more detail. That's usually the reason why you add thermals, is that you want to see detail. And we look at those orbs, oh boy, do we see details. We see a heat signature in the orb.
Should we keep going a little bit with this video?
Go for it. Yeah.
This is the money shot here, if I could turn a phrase.
Shows smoke coming out of the back of the plane, consistent with the fire. The plane is descending in the videos, consistent with an intercepted Chinese-only reported communication.
Right there. That's the first orb comes from the bottom, and you speculated that this possibly could have came from a submarine.
No, so the first orb comes from the side of the screen. The second orb is going to come from the cloud that on the right side of the screen is just south of the plane right now. And it's very hard to see in this version of the video, but we had a color channel changed version, which makes it very clear that the second orb seems to come either out of the water or skim across the water and come up through the cloud. That claims the plane was attempting an emergency landing and disintegrating. The plane's altitude is low in the videos, as proven by the cumulus clouds that only form between 1,000 and 5,000 feet, also consistent with the witness's sighting. And this is where I just let it play out. And you can see these orbs doing a pretty clear pattern here. Like they are either mapping the plane or they're preparing the space around the plane. And then they go in this ring formation and then zap. And we see that zap accurately illuminate the clouds as well. Where the zap just, and we actually have a much clearer one that was posted today by somebody on the internet that really shows the accurate illumination of this zap that we see. Yeah, it's probably gonna be hard to catch it in this fast-forwarded version right here, but it's out there.
Is there a better version on your YouTube page? I can pull it up.
You can look at the original there if you want, for sure. Yeah.
Sure, I got it right here. Let's see here.
Boom goes the dynamite. Exactly.
It's so insane. Like, if this is real, this is like the most compelling video I've ever seen. I watch a lot of these types of videos,
And I would argue, even if it's not real, it's still the most compelling UFO video in the history of the world. I mean, what other video would anyone say is more compelling from a UFO perspective? I've seen probably all the famous ones. I can't think of any that are nearly this compelling. I mean, this is two military equipments.
The thermal video you said?
So if you want to watch do the satellite side by side one.
Okay. Let's see. Videos.
Oh, was I talking about your post, North Georgia? Maybe.
Stereoscopic satellite. You got two on here.
Yeah, stereoscopic satellite.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the stereoscopic satellite footage. It's two different angles here. There is clear parallax, despite the fact that the corridor crew doesn't know what they're talking about. Those people are total clowns.
Okay, I gotta ask. I'm gonna look really stupid here. I've listened to you on a few podcasts now, and the parallax thing always comes up. What is parallax?
So parallax means that we are looking at these. These are not duplicated videos. These are videos that are slightly different angles. And what that means is if you overlay it and switch between the two of them, you're going to see the clouds shift. If it was duplicated video and you lay the video on top of itself, there'd be no difference if you flip between the videos.
Right, and I did see cloud shift in the one video.
Yeah, and so there's two different things. Clouds moving is not the same as parallax. The clouds move as you move forward and back in time. If you were to stop the clock, just like we have it stopped right now, and put these over the top of one another, and then flip between side A and side B, you're going to see the clouds move. Time is solid, but the clouds are still moving. That's because you're looking at two different angles that are slightly different.
Oh, yeah, because it's stereoscopic. I got
That's what stereoscopic means.
Yeah. It's like closing your eyes, like and blinking back and forth.
Exactly like that.
Moves.
Yes, exactly like that. Now you get it. And then the clouds moving is a matter of taking a snippet of a few seconds. The problem why it's very difficult to see the clouds move is two aspects. One, the satellite is 1,000 kilometers away. So if you go look out at the clouds outside right now, you're only probably a few miles away and the clouds barely look like they're moving. If you're 1,000 kilometers away, the clouds really aren't going to look like they're moving. And the perspective changes 8 times. So it's not like we're looking at one spot for more than a few seconds either. That's why it's very difficult to see the clouds move. Although somebody else posted the clouds moving, which I retweeted them earlier today, where it's 100% confirmed the clouds are moving. In fact, most of the debunkers don't even argue that the clouds aren't moving. They are moving. So the corridor crew people are just a straight up embarrassment to VFX. They should just stop trying. I don't know how many times I have to embarrass these guys, but whatever they're doing is completely pathetic.
I see that they must have heard your comments after the initial interaction, because then they came. What did they just recently come out with a video where they did try to recreate it or something?
I barely can call it a recreation. It's really obvious that they tried and realized they had no chance, and so they post out like 5 seconds of the jankiest recreation I've ever seen in my whole life, and then they just give up. And then this guy wears some Geordie LaForge glasses. Sits on a couch trying to laugh at and trying to make fun of me or something.
Like
trying
Google
to call me like
lenses.
UFO guy. Like, how am I the UFO guy? I'm literally not even connected to the UFO.
What are their? I've never heard of them before this whole thing. Like, what are their credentials? Like,
they don't have any credentials.
Yeah, they know more than
they do. They're a YouTuber, guys, so therefore they know everything. It's like this is the age of social media. I call it like I'm gonna call them the new terms called Reddit brain, where Redditors think that like people who are YouTubers are like the source of truth, right? It's like your favorite YouTuber is the one who's going to tell you the truth, guys. Like I literally had people arguing with me that their YouTubers have more credentials than the Marvel VFX expert who made Endgame, Captain America, and Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm sitting here like, okay, well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one. It's like ridiculous, man.
Fucking insane.
And it would be so ridiculous, but like in one of my more recent podcasts, like I get ambushed by this video, and it's just literally this guy, this clown, reading off a Metabunk. He's just reading off the website of Metabunk, pretending like it's his own thoughts. And I'm like, okay, well, I've already debunked all this stuff, so I'm just gonna get all the files ready to go, start taking notes. And this podcaster's like, hey, you should be paying attention to this. And I want to be like, dude, I already know everything he's about to say here. None of this is original. There's not one original thought in this guy's head. And I just debunk every single thing he says. He makes like 8 false statements in the span of 15 minutes. And after he makes them, he's like, well, why won't you just believe it? And I'm just looking at him like, I just told you, he just said 8 false things. He's like, but why don't you believe him though? It's like, this is Reddit brain. This is like, people don't care about what's factually correct. They care about what their friends say. They care about what's popular. They care about how they feel. Well, you made me feel bad. And then he's like, oh, well, you're getting angry. And I'm just looking
It's
at him like,
it's a hive mind, the Reddit hive mind.
yeah, exactly. It's like a hive mind, right? Where, you know, these people think that it's like gatekeeping mentality and this weird egotistical attitude where, like, you know, there's whatever they think has to be true, whoever they believe in has to be, whatever they say has to be true. And it leads to this like corruption of mental health where, you know, honestly, I would say Reddit is not just the biggest source of misinformation on the planet right now by far. It's the #1 radicalizer of terrorists as well.
Really?
And I say that in that I bet you if you look at the top school shooters and all these people that have been committing these terrorist acts, they all are Redditors. I would almost guarantee it because they're being inundated with so much falsehoods. That
Well,
are contrary
Reddit
to
is
real life.
Reddit really lends itself to creating echo chambers, and
Exactly.
when you keep, you know, repeating to yourself the same thing, and then the people that you're talking to are repeating the same thing back to you, you know, you can become radicalized.
Especially like the downvote button might be the worst thing ever invented, right? Because it then allows for this echo chamber to persist. And then the problem is people get afraid to disagree.
Well, the mods are the worst on Reddit too.
Yeah, the power mods especially.
Yeah.
And so, like, honestly, I do think that, and even like, I'm not going to try to get political, but I think like the Christchurch shooting, I would bet you almost anything the person that committed that was a Redditor, and the reason why they hid the manifesto and all that stuff is because it would have given away that they're being
that was the one in New Zealand at the mosque,
no,
or was that at the summer camp? Oh, okay.
The church or the
the transsexual one or whatever.
Well, I mean, I think that's aside the point, but the real point is that, you know, they're getting radicalized from these social media sites, right? And that's the part that's problematic, is that, and it's happening because people are getting so radicalized from either political beliefs or, you know, just being told that, oh, this is what's real. And then they come out to reality and they realize it's not like that. And that's what messes with people's heads, man. And it does it the same way with these videos, right? Like, you know how many times I've got linked this Corridor Crew video today? And I'm just laughing because I'm like, dude, they couldn't even attempt to recreate it. They say in the video that they're going to be able to recreate it in 1 hour or 5 hours. Well, that would have taken less time than them produce the video that they made of trying to make fun of it, right? So if they could have done that, they would have just did it. So it's clear that they couldn't. Plus, looking at their laughable attempts, like, I just looked at it and I'm just like, my God, how is this serious? And then the other part too is this, again, it goes back to the idea of like, oh, well, whatever they say has to be accurate, right? They didn't even come up with anything new to try to debunk it, right? It's laziness, man.
Okay. So
the whole manifesto wasn't leaked, guys. It was only like the 3 pages. Just a heads up on that.
And who knows where Crowder got that shit from anyways. I mean, they were kind of, the officials were mad about it, so maybe it's probably real, but
oh yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. And I think chat knows what's up on that. We won't go digging too more into that. But what I will say again is that we have to go back to critical thinking here, right? And the reason why we're able to figure out so much of these videos is because we're using critical thinking and deduction, and we're going to the evidence that was out there back in the time, and we are able to figure out all this stuff that we wouldn't be able to figure out without these videos. You know, that's why they're, in my mind, the 2 most incredible videos, you know, in the history of the world. There we see that zap happen again. The smoke, if you want to call it exhaust, fine, just stops right there. Doesn't keep going. I almost want this to be cloaking. It would be easier for people to accept if it's cloaking.
Right.
But the smoke stops.
Created a gravitational bubble around it. You know, it bends light. You can't see it.
And I was talking with one of my early experts. Like, we were sitting there like, what can this be cloaking somehow? Like, what if they can block all the electromagnetic fields somehow, right? But you would still have the smoke keep going. So cloaking doesn't really make any sense. And then it can't be an explosion because, again, we don't see any explosive effect. We see this endothermic event in the other video. And it's not big enough. Just, and I don't know why people try to rag on me for this like E equals mc squared, but it really is just high school physics. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, guys. So the mass of a 777 is a huge number. The speed of light's an even bigger number. You square the speed of light. Now the amount of energy is massive. We're talking about turning the plane into a nuclear bomb. It's going to be huge. Now, if you go with what Bob Greenier told me, you can at least bring back the theoretical concept for how it could be annihilation, which is that somehow this energy and mass is being moved somewhere else. But now it's still just a wormhole. It's like, oh, okay, well, you annihilated it, but then you wormholed the byproduct somewhere else.
Intact, though, do you think?
No, it would he says it would change forms pretty much, but you still have to have something because you can't just completely, make it go away. So his argument was, well, okay, it would change forms and then you would wormhole the byproduct to the center of the earth or something like that. But if you're wormholing anything, then it might as well just be teleportation, right? So to me, it's 99.9% teleportation with the 0.1% annihilation somehow.
Man, I hope those people didn't get teleported somewhere and it was like the Philadelphia experiment where they're all one giant globular form, hands and eyes sticking everywhere.
Because honestly, there's a lot of family members who suffered a lot. So I don't want to make fun of that at all. But yes, I think the big question that you're saying there is, is this tech proven or not? And I believe that it is proven. I don't have any way to prove that at all. But I do think that this is not an experiment just from looking at the situation. You can see there's some intent, right? If this plane is about to crash into the ocean, then the move would be, okay, we're trying to rescue them. You don't need to wipe them out, right? They are just going to crash if you need to wipe them out. You could argue that it's a no hope situation, so maybe you deploy it. The problem with that is that there's two major problems. One is it's a huge risk in terms of now you got to come up with this whole cover up for it, right, for deploying this. And the other part is you don't want to show your secret weapon. And so I like to use the cards analogy here, where it's like if you have a trump card, you want to save that for the last time you need to use it. Somebody plays their 2 card, their 2, the lowest value card. You don't play your trump card over it, right? You wait to hold your trump card till they play the king or they play the ace or whatever. And that's the same way with this technology when it comes to intelligence between these various countries as well. Right, is that we don't want to show China and Russia until we have to. So the reason also why I don't think this is China, because so ultimately, the only way these videos could be faked is if it's a state-sponsored fake, in my opinion. And because we're looking at U.S. military assets, it pretty much has to be the United States. But I don't think Russia just simply has the capability. People overestimate Russia. Russia's economy is crap.
What about the Chinese spy image?
That's what I was going to bring up.
You seem a little hesitant to confirm that that's legitimate, it seems.
So the reason why it's hard to confirm it's legitimate is I think there's a lot of spycraft going on here. The reporting for that image, this Chinese satellite image that shows looks like 3 orbs. I mean,
you wouldn't happen to have it, would you? That you could share?
I have it somewhere. Yeah, I'll pull it up. But
Thank you.
This image, they report that this image was taken from the South China Sea. But the problem is they look in the South China Sea and they don't find any debris down there. And they also report that this image was taken the day after the plane goes missing. We're going to have to Google what it looks like. Chinese satellite MH370. And I'll go ahead and share my tab here. I think this is the one. Yeah, okay. So this is the one here. There's actually a couple here. I wonder if I can make this bigger.
That looks like 3 dots, don't it?
Yeah, it looks like 3 dots. I mean, so it looks like we're looking at 3 dots here in a triangle pattern. These clouds actually look pretty similar to the clouds we see in the satellite.
Kind of wispy,
too, right? Yeah. Like low altitude clouds. Mm-hmm. And they were even arguing that this is in the ocean, but I'd almost looking at this, it doesn't look like it's floating in the water either. That's the other weird part about it. Now, if it's in the South China Sea, it's in the wrong location. We need it to be in the Nicobar Islands. Okay. And if it's on March 9th, it's the wrong date. We need it to be March 8th or March 7th. But again, these things could just be fake that they've thrown out there, right? If it's spycraft, they're throwing out a fake time and they're throwing out a fake location because the only people that are going to understand what they're looking at here is the United States government.
Right. Yeah. So
Right?
they just want, it's kind of like, we see you, you know,
Exactly.
in a way.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because that's what I first thought when I saw this. It was like, this just looks like they're going, we see you, right? We don't know exactly what you did, but we see you. And again, this resolution is much lower than the resolution we have of our cyber system, which is a lot more clear, right? So this is one piece of it. The other piece that we realized was there's a Chinese hack that happened. I totally forgot about this. I'm going to close this window. There was a Chinese hack that happened on March 9th as well, the same day that this supposed satellite picture was taken. China hacks Malaysia's government, not just their government, but actually the transportation. They hack for the MH370 files. They steal the crisis meeting minute notes from the next day, from the very first minute notes, and they steal classified information about MH370. What classified information is there on the day after the plane goes missing? The only thing I can think of is the communications with the plane, right? We just went over the flight path and we talked about they had to have communications with the plane, right? If I'm China, I'm stealing that because I know something else happened to this plane and they're not telling the truth about it.
And they've not recovered any black boxes, the only small pieces of debris, which I watched another streamer where he mentioned that there just happens to be a sister plane to this plane, right? That was bought by some questionable people or...
Yeah, and when I was first thinking this is annihilation, then I'm thinking, okay, well, this debris has to be fake, right? And so we looked and we found that, there was actually a copy of a plane purchased by GA Telesys that's an exact replica of MH370. Purchased October 2013 by this GA Telesys company that has ties to the military and intelligence. And it was scrapped like a decade too soon. I mean, the plane was 12 years old or something like that. And you're scrapping a 777-200. These planes generally last like 30 years. So you're scrapping this plane way too soon. So you could argue that the debris they found is from that plane. But then when we realized that this is a fire scenario from these lithium-ion batteries, that's when you realize, well, there's actually no inconsistencies with the debris. And if it's a teleportation event, then there's really no inconsistencies with the debris because this plane is just going somewhere else on Earth. And this debris is falling off of it. And it's not much debris at all. Like we were going and looking at it on my stream. There's like a CNN link where it's like less than 1% of the plane. They try to take these pictures of the flapper on to make it look huge, but people don't realize how big a 777 is. 777 is huge planes. They hold 300 people. So, you know, this debris that they found, the flaperon is mysteriously missing its serial plate. Like people argue, oh, they match it to a serial plate, a serial number. The media just like, why is the media not telling people that it's not a unique serial number that they matched it to, that they just match it to a part number? Like that's a pretty big difference. That means that when they match it to MH370, they're like, oh, the paint color matches. Okay.
Factory paint.
Like what about the other plane that's an exact copy?
Right.
But again, if it's a fire scenario and this plane is falling apart where there's this intercepted communication that is, again, China, only reported in China. China hacks and steals an intercepted encrypted communication that claims at 2:43 a.m., which is 1843 UTC, within 3 minutes of our videos happening, that the plane is attempting an emergency landing and disintegrating. I'm like, whoa. So there's actually probably a communication that they were communicating with the government, the U.S. government at this point, right? And China steals that. So China, at this point, they've got this intercepted communication. They've got a satellite picture. They have hacked Malaysia. I mean, let's just put the pieces together here. This basically rules out China from being involved in the disappearance because they wouldn't be doing any of this stuff, right?
Right. In the fact that they're doing all this stuff, they know something other than just a plane crashing. Well, at least that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, because the plane crashes, they're not going through any of this stuff, right?
Right.
They're just going to be like, hey, here's the
they're
plane.
They're getting into espionage for
why
a
the
plane crash. Planes crash all the time, you know? Well, maybe not that often.
All the time. Hopefully not that often.
Right, not that often, but it happens.
I've always been afraid of flying.
That's why we have the FAA, you know?
Yeah, that's why the FAA actually outlaws lithium-ion batteries in the cargo of passenger planes the very next year. What a coincidence. It's like, well, this plane had 500 pounds of lithium-ion batteries in the cargo.
It's a lot.
If my plane has 500 pounds of lithium-ion batteries in the cargo and they tell me I'm getting off, I'm just getting off right away. Like that, these things are really dangerous. And
that's
go ahead.
That's a whole nother thing too, because those batteries weren't checked in at the airport, correct? Like they're checked in somewhere else. and then brought to the plane?
Yeah, it's like they were put together somewhere else. They were put together that day. You can look at the ATSB report yourself. We had our investigators dig through it, and I couldn't believe when I saw the pictures. I'm like looking at these pictures going, wait, this is how they stack these lithium-ion batteries? They just put them together, like stick them together, put some ceramic over the top of them, and like some metal plates on the side, and they just stack them in cardboard boxes on top of each other.
Seems safe.
Seems safe. One of these things lights up, the whole thing's gonna light up like a Christmas tree.
Right.
Like, what the heck? And they missed two.
It must have been
security
Samsung
scannings.
batteries.
They were actually Motorola, but
Oh,
pretty close.
yeah.
And so they missed two security screenings. Like they're like, you can just imagine people being like, yeah, we don't need to worry about those. Just put them on the plane, right? Like, and this is before people realized how dangerous they were. And it gets downplayed a lot in all the like press conferences. As far as I know, there's like only one mention of the batteries. And they talk about like, oh, could it be a fire? And they do this like some kind of test where they try to figure out if the condensation from the mangosteens could have like interacted, which if there's, I think it was like 4,500 pounds of mangosteens, which I had to look it up. What's
a mangosteen?
We should, you know what? We should look this up. It
Yeah.
looks like like I think it's like a mango with like the stem on it. Let me look at this. Oh no, it's not. It's like this weird, almost looks like a plum with this like white fruit in the middle of it. Oh, so this is why they're thinking that there could be condensation, because you've got these 4,500 pounds of this like plum thing in there, right? And if they're collecting water, now that condensation could cause a reaction with the batteries if they're too close. There could be several reasons. I've talked to some experts about it. If the temperatures were like 100 degrees that night, Malaysia's right near the equator as well. And I lived in Singapore. It's hot as hell down there, like all the time, any time of the year. And if they get to about like 160 degrees or higher, this is when they start to get unstable and there can be a reaction. But the most common cause with these batteries is that there's a defect in them. And so if there's a defect in one of these batteries, which again, they didn't get scanned twice, like it just seems like an extremely dangerous situation. Like these batteries should have been probably packaged more safely. They should have been thoroughly looked over to make sure there was no defects in them. You know, even one person putting them together incorrectly probably could have led to a chain reaction. The last piece that I'll say is that runaway lithium-ion battery fires are the biggest concern. And the reason why the word runaway is so important is that the dangerous part about these batteries is they don't go out. You put it out and it just comes right back up again because they have so much energy in them. And I was talking to my source, that's the one that's willing to testify on Capitol Hill. Like all their experiences in trying to get the safety regulations changed, dating back to like 2012. So there was people already fighting, knowing that these things were dangerous back then, and it just wasn't being popularized in the media. Probably because they don't want people to stop flying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of
completely faulty, according to the chat wants to know. Go ahead.
So you mentioned you had your sources willing to testify, and that I wanted to ask you about that. Is that where this is all leading, do you think? Is that your goal, is to like maybe sort of have a congressional hearing a la the Grush UAP hearings, or just get it in front of some sort of lawmakers or something like that?
What should I say without saying too much? What I'll say is that I am trying to reach out to Congress people at the moment. I've started to get a lot of connections to people that I never thought I would have connections to. And I don't want to have a UAP hearing. That's not what I want to have happen.
Okay.
I don't think that a UAP hearing is going to get anything done. I think we saw the last UAP hearing, right? And that's not necessarily was made a joke of, but they wasn't taken very seriously.
A little underwhelming.
Very underwhelming in my opinion. And I think it's not.
I think it was good.
Yeah.
I think it was good as far as disclosure and what I wanted to see at that time. But now in hindsight, it wasn't enough. But I think those three witnesses for a first congressional hearing were good. But that's just
I love
my
the
opinion.
witnesses,
Yeah.
and I like Graves and Fravor and David Grush. I believe all of them, to be honest with you.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not my issue at all. I think that it's a matter of getting Congress to pay attention to it. I spoke with my congressmen and their aides. Actually, I didn't speak with my congressmen directly, but their aides. And what I asked them was, what do you think about Congress and how they get stuff done? And they said, well, you have to realize what Congress is a bunch of different people with different agendas, right? All trying to come together. Now, if you're trying to do that on this angle of UAPs and non-human intelligence, you're not going to get a lot of biters, I don't think, right? But if you come at it from the conspiracy angle and say we need to have a hearing about MH370 and what happened to it and what we did to it, the United States government, my government, our government, the one that's responsible for this, and what is the black budget program that we have that's developing orbs out there, right? Orbs that are hyper advanced technology. I don't think we even have to look at it from the UAP angle, although there's obvious connections, right?
I personally think that you obviously you know a lot more about this than I do, but if I had to guess, this is reverse technology from one of the UAP programs that has been going on for 70 years, which we know is real. You know, they've recovered craft. That's real. That's what I tell people when I talk about this stuff. I get sometimes it's fun to talk about all the real woo when it comes to UFO stuff, but there's really two things that you can like hang your hat on. That's one, we have and had a program for 70 years or maybe more. And two, they recovered pilots. Everything else is just kind of, noise. And that the recent did you see the article that came out from the Daily Mail? What was it, yesterday? About the CIA retrieval groups, the Office of Global Access. It's just another piece to the puzzle, and the puzzle is slowly showing itself. But I think this video is absolutely tied into that program.
Yeah, and I think that, if you watch the Tucker Carlson piece, he just had Tim Burchett on like literally last night, right?
Yeah, I watched that. I love
about it. I think I have the top reply in there, by the way.
Oh yeah, I love when Tucker red pills the boomers on UFOs. That's my favorite thing.
Well, that's
honey, he's talking about aliens.
Like I see that and I'm like, oh boy, I'm like, this is my chance to reply in here. I'm actually gonna go check right now because I just want to see if I am still the top reply. But I had hundreds of thousands of views on there from that. And it's because, I think I think it's reverse engineered technology.
Absolutely.
To me, I just don't think we can be this secretly advanced without a little bit of help. I think we can be pretty advanced secretly, but we're talking like this is orbs. They're just floating around, creating their own geodesics and doing this crazy triangle pattern, making a plane teleport away, right? Like it's
probably
advanced, right?
It's probably AI, and those orbs are probably creating their own gravitational bubble around them, just like the ships do.
Exactly. No, you've got it. I think you're ahead of the curve on this one, right?
Yeah. Well, I get that from thank Bob Lazar. He was the and then like the Reddit leak. Are you familiar with that one? Go ahead.
Are you talking about EBO scientist or 4chan leak?
EBO scientist. Where he talks about where that person talks about the ports in the back of the gray type aliens where they seem to be like AI drones. And that's not the first time in this sort of thing where you hear that the grays are like AI type drones, and then there you go. AI.
I'm going to share my
gravitational bubbles. It's all
it's a little humble brag here on your
sure.
screen.
All right, flex, dunk on him.
There it is, right? Look,
oh shit!
Scroll down. Oh look, who is that?
Oh shit! He's got
371,000 views. Right. So, and it's like the next person's like 100,000, right? So just flexing a little bit on.
Let's go.
So
let's fucking go.
We're trying to get Tucker Carlson's attention because the reality is that I think that it is reverse engineered, and I think that what we're looking at here, if we are going to get shut down in these disclosure hearings or whatever, well, boy, do we have a trump card here, man. Like, we've got a plane going missing where we don't even have to attack it from the angle of UAPs. We can just attack it from the angle of the conspiracy angle, which then has the byproduct of revealing this reverse engineering program, right? And we know that this whole story of the plane makes no sense at all, this official narrative. We can prove that false. And then the other thing I was going to say is we can talk about the EBO scientists, but the 4chan thing, that CIA thing you were talking about, the moment I heard about that, I thought about the 4chan leaker guy who basically says he was part of one of those crews that went and like
on the submarine.
No, this was the guy who he posted on 4chan all these replies saying like, I'm part of the craft retrieval program, and they take the bodies out before I get there, and that there's these underwater bases that are producing UFOs.
That's the and there's like a hamburger mother base that like Taylor makes these ships to the beings themselves, and there's research ones. You know what it reminded me of, that story was the CIA story that just came out. Did you ever watch any of the testimonials that Dr. Stephen Greer puts out where he has like these ex-army dudes And then
Michael Herrera, I got spammed that one like a dozen times.
the one where he's in the jungle and he was military and they were helping out like during the hurricane. Those guys that come out of the forest with the guns, that sounds a lot like the groups that are described. So
it does sound very similar. What I will say is that those are two of the most credible sounding stories that I've heard in the last 6 years that I've been lurking around this subject. Just from the way that they can respond to people real quickly in real time like that, it means that they either have all this information about UFOlogy, they have the creativity to come up with stuff that nobody's ever said in public before, right? And they can do that all on the fly. That's really tough, man. Like that's the part where I'm going, maybe there's something going on here where, it's not, if you're trying to like to compare it to a LARP, the LARP that I heard that is definitely not real was that there was somebody claiming that, aliens have been videoing us for hundreds of years and thousands of years, and they have video of all of us, and they were going to release it in like a specific day or something like that, right? Like that's LARP, right? But when you think about stuff like this, you're like, it just takes this element of UFOlogy, mixes it with something we've never heard before, and then, is able to respond right on the fly. That's the ones that you should probably be listening to, in my opinion.
I agree.
Now, EBO scientists, you want to talk about that for a minute as well?
Sure. Yeah, I did a whole stream about it where we read it word for word all the way through. It was great. Even if it's just fiction, it was fun to read.
So I don't think it was fiction, and the reason why I don't think it's fiction is a couple reasons. For one, I used to work in labs, and when I did work for labs, I learned a lot about lab equipment. And when they talk about the cytology devices, I mean, they're talking about a real lab. Like, unless this person...
Oh, yeah, this person
actually,
had
to have worked in a lab. And the reason for that is that I've worked with a lot of doctors and a lot of nurses. I work in healthcare. I think I've mentioned that. And they don't know crap about labs, right? Only the people in the lab know
doing the legwork,
right? The people who are in there running the tests and stuff like that. So the person there right away, when I got to that part where they're talking about the lab equipment, I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. This person, like, that's something weird that you would be LARPing, right? Unless you actually have that experience and that understanding. And then the other thing that I think Reddit got wrong is, we're just going to rag on Reddit all day. But
I'm here for
Redditors
it.
miss so much key information. Like, do they really think one person came up with that whole body of evidence, this EBO 20-page long physiology of a alien body? Let's just call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is the effort.
It'd be the greatest hoax of all
right?
time.
That's
at least one of them.
4 or 5 different PhDs to come up with all that.
Right.
We're talking about microbiologists. We're talking about people that have, the lab experience that we need. We need probably an exobiologist. Like, this is a whole team's worth of work. And this one person who's probably privy to the whole body of knowledge, and they're also probably a PhD themselves. Like, if I were to guess, they are probably one of the lead researchers in a group of people that's probably 5 to 10 people strong, right? And that they go in there to where these bodies are, and they even say that it's like not even in like the highest level, like
right. It's like in like the basement.
It's not even like where the anthrax is at, right? It's like the level 2 bio clearance area, and they just go there and they probably just pull the bodies out of the freezer, right?
They also mix in that whole thing. Yes, there's all the technical jargon, and the way it's written out seems legitimate, but they would also have to be somebody who's got one foot in the UFO community, because at the end they put in somebody asked about the souls. If you read the comments, and he starts going into like stuff I've heard before, where for some reason these beings are very interested in our souls, which I never saw coming when I got into this. It was not something I thought I would, keep reading and running into, was the souls being brought up. And it was in that RBO post, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think that the soul part was really interesting, because he's like, oh, well, also I got read into some information about what the aliens believe in.
Their religion.
Because like apparently he argues that that's necessary to understand the biology. And he says that, yes, their religion is that it's all about the soul growth, right? Which I thought about that. And the weird part about that is the more I've learned about the science, the more compelling that has become. Because the more I've learned about the science of these videos, the more I've come to accept and learn that we live in a construct. People will call it a matrix, hologram, simulation, whatever
I
you
say
want to call
simulation
it, right?
all the time, yeah.
And I don't prefer simulation that much, just because it kind of
cheapens it a little.
Yeah, you got it, right?
Yeah,
and
I get it.
Life is still very important to live, and I think that we should really appreciate all the time that we have here. So, if it's a construct, that means there's a creator. And that means that, what is our soul then in that realm? And I actually have shown this video called The Egg, which is by Andy. Someone help me out, chat. Anyway, the whole concept of it is that time is an illusion and that we're all the same person. And that when we die, we just come back as somebody else. And then we just keep doing that over and over and over again. And then the purpose is that our soul is growing. That after each life, our soul gets a little bit more mature until we get to a point where we've lived every life. And then we become our God. We become higher phase of being ourselves, right? And when I think about that, I go, wow, that's so similar to what the EBO scientist person was saying. It's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, I also heard that another theory was sort of similar to that, except I'm gonna so butcher this, but in a very basic in a very basic way, our souls are like, it's data, and our data, maybe they seed the cosmos, and it's a way of like infinite data storage, and they're after being an all omnipotent knowing being, and this is how I'm really fucking this one up, but you kind of get the idea.
Yeah. So I think that whole thing is pretty interesting. People should definitely look into that. But you want to talk a little bit more about MH370? What other questions do you have about this?
So can we talk about Edward C. Lin a little bit?
Yeah. So I think everyone's favorite part, where I think the most compelling part about this guy has not reached out to me to tell me to stop talking about him, because I'm sitting here blasting his name every single night on every single podcast I can. And you would think if this guy is unrelated to this case, that he'd be reaching out to me going, yo, man, stop blasting my name to every single hundreds of millions of people. Right.
Poor guy.
But the evidence is just overwhelming that he's the guy that leaked these videos. Just absolutely overwhelming. The time frame is too small. The charges against him too severe. He checks every single box. I've even asked other people to, if you can find somebody else that fits the bill better, please. Because I looked for 2 weeks and I couldn't find anyone that's even close. And then when I run across Edward C. Lin, it's like spider sense is going crazy. Like, this has got to be the guy. So just to rehash some information, the leaker is most likely a U.S. military personnel, likely an operator, likely had an emotional reaction given how quickly Regicide Anon received the footage just 4 days later. If this was somebody who happens upon it later on, it's going to get received months later, right? Not 4 days after the event. That means like somebody was watching. They were like, holy crap, this plane just disappeared. I got to go tell the world. They're never going to figure it out.
Right.
They remove the HUD data. They colorize the thermal on there. They crop out the drone out of the satellite video, which is really weird, right? Like, if this is a spy or something, you're never cropping this drone out. You're going to have the drone be sitting there where you can see the drone looking at the plane, right? It's like they didn't think they were going to have to release the second video. They probably had to convince Regicide Anon that the videos were authentic, because it took like 8-9 weeks for them to publish the video after they claimed they received it, which tells me that they had to be told, like, hey, this is what you're looking at. This is the Cyber system. And they're going, wait, how is this a satellite? They're probably asking the same questions that all the debunkers are asking, right? Like, why is the satellite not moving? Why is it this color? All this stuff, right? And then they have to get convinced. They're like, oh, okay, I believe it's real now. They publish it. They may have thought as well that they were looking at UFOs. So maybe Edward C. Lin doesn't even realize that he's looking at our technology, right?
I watched a podcast and you said that, and that's what I think most people think when they see it. They're like, holy shit, this is UFOs abducting an airplane, but it's us, probably.
Yeah, I'm a coincidence theorist here, where there's too many coincidences going on here with this guy.
Yeah.
And so he's looking at it, and the video is called Satellite Video, Airliner, and UFOs, which doesn't say MH370 in it, which to me tells it that Regicide Anon gets leaked this footage. Maybe he doesn't even tell Regicide Anon it's MH370. He's like, hey, here's this footage. Just put it out there. People will put the pieces together, right? It's almost like a puzzle that somebody's putting out there. And so then we get into Edward C. Lin. I find this guy after a couple weeks, and I'm seeing right away Signals Intelligence. Every single news article, Signals Intelligence. And I'm going, well, SIGINT is literally the system that I'm talking about that's connecting all these assets together. And it's the drone that's connecting to the plane, which is connecting to the satellite. And I find out that he's part of this special squadron, the VPU-2. And this squadron flies these spy planes, the Poseidon P-8 and the Lockheed Martin EP-3 Ares 2, which has, looking at it, real-time tactical SIGINT and motion video intelligence. The crew fuses the collected intelligence along with offboard data for battlefield situational awareness. This guy's literal job, I looked him up, and this isn't even necessarily in my notes right now, but his whole job was to take the data from the plane and report it to like the leadership and let them know like where stuff is and what's going on. So he's the exact guy we're looking for. They even give the case against him an operation code, Operation Rogue Archer. So the last deployment, the time span, he gets deployed February 2014, 1 month or less before the plane goes missing. He gets reassigned March 25th, 2014, 2 weeks after the plane goes missing. So we've narrowed it down to under 2 months that this guy is in the exact right assignment, where then he just gets mysteriously reassigned, which only happens during serious events, right? He was supposed to have that assignment go out till March 2016. The investigation begins a week later, April 2nd, 2014. We found a quote from his lawyer that gave away when the investigation began. In May of 2014, he gets caught with 2 flight manifests in his flight suit that include code names from search and rescue operations. So what?
Like
what other search
related
and rescue?
to?
You tell me what other search and rescue between February and March of 25th.
Is this guy still alive? Do we know this guy's alive still, or?
I think he's still alive. I hope he is.
I hope
think
he
that
is.
he's in silence and he's in hiding. I mean, we'll get to that part here in a minute, but
He probably realizes how much he's fucked up, and he probably hates your goddamn guts.
I hope if he's out there, sir, please. You're my favorite person in the world. I would take a bullet for this guy. This is not a joke. I would put all of my resources to protect him. I would send my followers to guard his house if he asked me to, from the government. I don't know if that would do any good, but I would do any of that thing. So this might be the most damning part. The defense argues that the classified information in question is available on the internet. It's available on the internet. Like, okay, somebody else find the classified information available on the internet that this guy leaked. If it's not these videos, just please, what is it? Well, I mean, given the time frame of February to March, it has to be related to MH370. Are the flight manifests available on the internet? I mean, like, I'm just trying to understand what it could be. And then he gets arrested in September of 2015. Now, people in my Discord just recently have speculated that maybe they waited to arrest him so that we wouldn't be able to tie it together. Because if they arrest this guy of like May 2014, we're going to be like, okay, wait,
Right.
why is he being arrested
It's
again?
too on the nose.
Like, why are these videos out here with 777-200 that are existing?
Mm-hmm.
And they try to do a sting operation. They honeypot him. They send a woman FBI agent, which tells me they were probably having him sleep with her and try to, they want to try to get him on espionage. They charge him with espionage, which would have resulted in life in prison.
Oh, yeah.
They throw everything at this guy.
There was a couple of years ago, there was a kid who was stationed on a submarine. And he took a picture of his bunk and they gave him like life, I'm pretty sure. So they don't play around with the espionage shit.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's the first incident of espionage from an active duty member of the Navy since the end of the Cold War, 50 years. So this is not a common event that happens. And this guy was, by all accounts, a patriot. 17 years. They were fast tracking him. He was like some kind of congressional aide, like right before this assignment, where they were like basically fast tracking him for upper management. In fact, I'm going to add on my information here. We found his Facebook page, and he's friends with General Flynn. Like, okay, so he's like, are all people just friends with generals on their Facebook? Like, it seems a little bit unusual,
right?
And I need to add that to my notes here. And then his charge sheet is heavily redacted, which, okay, you could argue maybe the charge sheet being redacted is not that unusual, but they redact like everything, including the dates. Which the reason why I think you would redact the dates is that you're going to be able to connect it to the videos pretty quickly, I imagine. Privy to the Navy's Black Program portfolio, he had above top secret clearance with access to compartmentalized information. His knowledge could be extremely useful to potential U.S. adversaries. He is not really a spy case. There's an article about that the strange case of Edward C. Lynn. and there was growing doubt that the government would actually be able to prove he's a spy. There was no evidence that he ever exchanged anything from anyone from China. That's why they ran the sting operation. They actually had nothing against him.
Right. So
Videos,
honeypotted
right?
him.
Yeah, and they wanted to
They
put him away
had
from
to.
life. So, like, why are you doing that to somebody where you have no evidence of them spying? Why are you charging them with espionage? If you look at the videos, it's pretty obvious that the damage done from the videos is the reason why you're trying to get him with espionage. You would think that if this is U.S. technology, then this is an espionage case, because this technology is secrets are being given away to China and Russia, right? If it's just UFOs, it's not espionage. And if it's just something mundane, it's not espionage. It has to be something huge.
Mm-hmm.
So then they also abuse him while he's in pretrial detainment. They won't let him out either. They also won't tell him what he's being charged with while he's under interrogation. And while he's being abused, they also try to instead of, like, he should have been released. Like, why is he not released on like bail, right? And the judge, when they try to release him on bail, like, the evidence against why he's like a dangerous, like for intelligence purposes, like, it's just mundane emails. Nothing that's, it's like, where's the evidence that like this guy has to be locked up, right? And the answer is they can't show that evidence because it's the videos. So if they were to show the videos to anybody,
I got you.
Realize like this is why he's got to be locked up,
Mm-hmm.
and it would give away the game. They show some stuff that's unrelated that like people are like, why? This is just mundane emails. It doesn't prove that he's a spy. Like, why do you have to lock him up, right? And then so they force him into a plea deal. So he takes a plea deal. And he gets 9 years in the plea deal just for 2 charges that don't include espionage. Just 2 charges of mishandling classified information. And they give him 9 years for that. If you just compare to other people, this is way, way higher sentence. So again, this has to be a major thing that he's being taken with. And then he ends up working with the NCIS and the FBI, and he gets 3 years shaved off. He ends up admitting fault for those 2 charges, saying that he wants to be an example for people to not do what he did. And all of this just adds up to this is the guy. Like 99.9% sure this has got to be the guy. So I'm like, okay, this was just a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, I'm going to FOIA the FBI and the NCIS. Like, I'm going to say, give me everything you got. And I do. I print out all the forms. I mail them all into them.
I have a feeling you didn't get much.
I didn't get anything.
Yeah.
I get email back. I'm just gonna pull it up and just read it, because you know what? Normally I just read I have it in front of me, so I can't just read it straight up. I just want everybody to know exactly how little they're willing to give me on this, because it's pretty wild. So let me pull this up. Where is it, man? I got so much stuff now. Hard to find it. What was the number on this?
Was sentenced to a 9-year sentence with the last 3 years suspended as part of a pre-trial agreement with the government.
Yeah, so he ends up getting just 6. Yeah, cops the plea. He ends up getting 3 years shaved off, so he doesn't have to do the whole thing. Man, I might have to do it from memory, because for some reason I'm having a hard time finding it. I don't know if the government took it off my list. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I got my official response. I can't share it because it's got personal information on it. But after
you're not real great about not sharing your personal information on stream, by the way.
I've shown my DMs like,
yeah, we know who you're talking to, Ashton. Sorry, go ahead.
No big deal. No, I definitely deserve that. So we have carefully reviewed the documents and withheld them in total under FOIA Exemption 1. Exemption 1 protects disclosure of information about matters specifically authorized under criteria established by the executive order to be kept secret in the interest of national defense or foreign policy, and which has been in fact properly classified pursuant to the executive order. So I looked this up, and it's basically just what it says: national defense or spy purposes or intelligence purposes. And then the foreign policy doesn't make any sense, because it's not a spy case. So if it's not a spy case, why is the exemption related to foreign policy? Unless it's MH370 that we're talking about. We're talking about these videos. And I go look at, like, okay, who's the guy that signed this, right? Like, who is the person that's in charge of this? K. Richmond, Senior Associate Counsel, Head, Government Information Sharing Unit. This is like the top lawyer over there. Right? Like, they are not going to give me a thing, right? So they're not even going to give me redacted documents. They're like, I asked for everything related to the case. and they won't give me a dang thing, which is probably because I put in the description for why it needs to be expedited that you guys are hiding the secrets of MH370, and I know this guy's related to it. I don't know if that was a good move on my part, but
yeah, probably not, Ashton.
Definitely made sure that they weren't
very subtle of you.
And all my FOIAs, I do that just because if anyone wants to find my FOIAs, I want people to know, like, if I were to disappear, that like these guys are implicated in interference. Like, you know, so yeah, all my FOIAs, I say, we know what you did with MH370. This needs to be expedited in the interest of public disclosure. And they always go, no, it's not good enough reason. That's not
Ashton, just for the record, you're not suicidal, right?
No.
In any way,
no,
right?
I'm not suicidal in any way. I'm the happiest I've ever been. In fact, I've made connections with people that, if you told me 3 months ago, I would have said, you're insane. There's no way I'm ever going to know these people or talk to these people on the phone or whatever. But that's where I'm at right now, where, you know, and I'm nobody special. I think that my favorite moniker is King of the Normies, because I'm just some guy that chose to try to step up in this because nobody else wanted to step up. Everybody wanted to say that it's fake or whatever else. And I said, no, you know what? It's not fake. Like, we are going to actually dig into this. And if it's real, then we'll be able to authenticate every aspect of the videos. And I think to date, that's what we've done. There's very little left that needs to be authenticated and very little questions that need to be answered.
It's so impressive, the amount of evidence that you and your ragtag group of internet sleuths have accumulated over these. Because I remember just like months ago, I saw the video. It might have been just one of the videos. I just immediately dismissed it. And then I saw you on Twitter, and I was talking to my friend. I'm like, "Do you see this guy? He undebunked that plane video that we all just dismissed." And it's just snowballed from there, and it's really fucking incredible. I mean, I think that's probably a great spot to end it, unless you had anything else to add. We already went over when we agreed, you know, how long we want to go. So
normally I just go until we get tired of talking about stuff. But nah, Crackadona, it's been awesome hanging out with you, man. And thank you for getting the evidence out there. You know, everybody who's watching, you know, give Crackadona a follow, give him a sub. Normally it's the podcasters who are telling me to shout out stuff, but like now we've grown so huge now.
Yeah, you're like, massive. I'm a tiny little YouTuber.
Now we're actually like trying to help out all the alternative podcasters and the people out there, because like you guys are the ones that helped get us to this location and this spot that we're at. But also I truly just believe that alternative media is the future. Like, the reality is mainstream media is not talking to me. Like, they're definitely controlled by the government. Let's just be honest with it. Right. And they're not going to expose themselves. A lot of them are implicated too in a lot of the BS that was spread early on.
They hold water for these people.
And the other crazy part about it is that we are just putting up more numbers than they're putting up. Like, I was looking up CNN's ratings and just like adding it up. It's small. It's like a few million viewers every week, like adding up all their stuff. And it's like, I'm getting like 9 to 13 million impressions a week. It's like, just my account's doing more numbers than their stuff's doing. Social media has already surpassed traditional media in terms of getting the word out there. So what we're doing here is a grassroots movement, right? It's crowdsourcing from the internet, from social media. So I'll just go ahead and thank Reddit for what they started with, not Reddit itself, but the individuals who fought back against the censorship on Reddit, the ones that were out there showing that, hey, we can actually authenticate some of this stuff. You know, some of the strongest evidence was even from the debunkers, the Zap accurately illuminating the clouds, the plane actually on accurate descent and maxing out its capabilities. A lot of this stuff has come from them. And sure, I think we and the group, or MH370X, has at this point done quite a bit more, but we would never have gotten to this point without them. Also, I want to shout out as well the Twitter communities that were, you know, spreading the evidence. Like, Twitter is mostly being used as a microphone or megaphone to like push the evidence out, but even 4chan was out there fighting the battles on the anonymous boards. I know I don't post there, just FYI.
Anonymous is involved now too, as of what, like a week ago.
Anonymous made a video about my work and the case, and I'm like, whoa, okay, so
it's really
Anonymous
incredible.
Involved, Kim.com was involved. I'm going to be on InfoWars tomorrow, and we had Greg Reese from InfoWars who did another piece as well. I've got podcasters or Twitter followers on that are following me that are like huge.
You had Audit the Audit in your chat the other day. 2.6 million subscribers on YouTube. So you're pulling in eyes from, you know,
people are watching.
all the right places.
and even from the UFO community, even though I've detached myself from the UFO community, you know, they're
That's
still
where
watching
I
it.
live.
I was gonna say, and I'm not putting down the UFO community. Like, there are people out there that really do want disclosure, but there's a lot of bad actors in the community that don't.
There is.
And that's
and there's a lot of infighting, and it gets in the way. It's very regimented into camps, and I try to avoid that as best as possible. But you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I actually have 2 giant podcasts tomorrow for your chat who's asking. The InfoWars, I'm going to be on. I don't think it's live, but I'm not
InfoWars,
sure.
let's go.
Yeah, the War Room I'm going to be on tomorrow. And then there's another one that I haven't announced yet, but it'll be coming out on Friday that I'm going to be recording tomorrow that if you were watching my stream, you probably can figure it out. I'm not good at hiding my stuff. But, and I'm talking to all kinds of other big people too. So we're working our way up, and there's other stuff that's coming in the future that I can't announce yet, but yeah, we're working our way up on that. So the thing I want to say though is that about the UFO community is that the reason why I've separated myself entirely is, first of all, I don't think I'm looking at UFOs in these videos anymore. I do think it's a reverse engineering program, but I don't think we're looking at non-human intelligence. The second reason is that I don't want people out there. The only reason to be talking smack about me from the UFO community perspective is for malicious intent, right? And that's because there's, you know, I'm doing nothing against those people. I'm not affiliated with anyone that's out there. So the only reason we're talking smack and discrediting me is that you have some skin in the game that you should not have, right? And what I will say is there's a lot of people in the community that are really nice. They're awesome. I'll shout out people like Red Panda Koala. Chupacabra has been one of the people. These people have been hosting spaces that gave us a platform early on. And they're the nicest people in the world. They're way nicer than I am, honestly. Like, I am brutal to people that come at me with ill intent, but
I've seen it.
But the people that are out there that are nice and they're like hosting a platform, they're defending me out there. The people as well, like alien scientist Jeremy Reese, who's very skeptical, but was open-minded and had me on and didn't dishonestly attack me and listen to the evidence. You know, I've forged alliances, friendships with a lot of these people who, you know, I respect their opinions and views, even though we don't necessarily agree on everything. So I just want to thank the UFO community that has embraced the case, given the platform, and allowed us to be at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we've been reading a lot of stuff for a long time, so it's really not a big leap for us to wrap our heads around these videos. You know what I mean? So on behalf of the UFO community, we appreciate that. Thank you, Ashton.
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, these stuff can lead to disclosure, right? Like, it's, I think that I'm going to attack it from the conspiracy angle because I think that's the easier way to attack it. But if we can prove there's this black budget program and Lockheed Martin, I'm looking at you, are the ones involved in this, then I think it's going to make disclosure happen way quicker than it would have happened otherwise.
Well, I want to thank you, Ashton, for stopping by and talking to me. This was huge for me. I really appreciate it. We went over so much stuff. This was just fantastic, dude. Everybody, all of Ashton's links and where you can follow him and find him on YouTube are all in the description. Please go check him out. Check out the Hard Truths podcast. He just started it how many weeks ago?
It's only been like 3 weeks. And I only started it to be able to explain the science because I figured, well, if
it's great.
Everything,
and there's a lot of science. It was a little hard for me to follow today, but you know, it's fun. So thank you, Ashton, for joining me. Everybody else, thank you, chat, for being here. Thank you to all my new subscribers. This is great. We're gonna try and do a lot more of these. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much. Hey, have a good one. Take it easy.
Because I'm fucking around with you when I'm drunk. I'm outplaying you by using.
No, you're actually not.
Yeah, I actually am. Yeah, but
I like your Wendy's drive-through headset tonight. It looks good on you.
Yeah, but
Did you take that home from work? Oh, a transgender
but it
person
could've-
said they tried to put a dick in his ass and it didn't work.
They
Thank
couldn't
you for
put
the secret, Jimmy. Don't do it. Don't touch the vomit. Oh my god. It's so bad. Ew, why is she doing it in a seductive way?
Bo
Bro, I'm not
Jackson.
even trying to sound gay, but even black guys have fucking big old booties.
Yo.
Why are you checking out black dude butts?
Hella gay.
That was the gayest thing that clumsy.
Fuck.
It's gonna, hey, it's gonna.
Hey, but them black dudes do be having big butts though, am I right? Give me a break.